Like, you think about it as a guy if you're watching, right? And you say, it's impossible. That never happened. Something out of a movie or something, right? But you saw it firsthand.
Well, and the crazy thing was, like, I had on a conservative guy like a week or two ago.
Right.
And he kept telling me that it's only Chads can like pick up women. It's only like the very good looking guys.
Right.
But what kind of surprised me like that weekend were some of the coaches weren't like super like I'm not trying to talk, but it wasn't like they were the best looking guys in the world. They just kind of went for it.
Yeah.
They kind of just had the balls
to do it. That's half the battle. Because you got to understand too, like, I don't care what you look like as a guy. There's a girl that's always going to say, oh, that's my type, but guys let the opportunity just pass by them. So half the work is actually just having the balls to go up and say hi.
I think like people that aren't in this, and even me before I like went there, you would think it's just like the weirdest guys that go to this stuff. But I was like, there's some. We'll talk
about it later.
But I was like, they're pretty normal, to be honest. And it's kind of interesting because it really can be learned.
Yeah, it's a skill.
Yeah.
Right. We're all products of our environment. Whether you're introverted or extroverted, and communication, attraction, all that, it's just kind of like it's a part of extroversion, right? Making a girl feel comfortable, reducing her anxiety. That's like more introverted side. So it's all a skill. Everything you learn is a skill. And the average guy, if you go outside, you see the average guy, half of them are going to have issues with dating. So it's very much so like an average guy's problem for sure.
So when you're doing dating coaching, what are like the archetypes of guys that tend to come to you?
So where do I start? You have a few guys, but the two buckets we see the most is the guys who are inexperienced and they just want to have fun with girls. They're like, hey, I've never had a girlfriend. What's a relationship like, right? They might still be virgins or, they have no experience. The other bucket is the guys who are looking for a long-term relationship. They're like, hey, I got heartbroken. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm rusty. Maybe they're in their 40s, heart divorce, whatever. But they're actually looking for something serious. So those are kind of like the two buckets that we get for guys.
And when you get guys that are virgins are close to it, or
close to it.
I don't know, like some guys you meet, it's like they've hooked up with one girl one time, something like that.
Fair
but
enough.
What is the issue generally? Is it like looks? They're just super unattractive? Is it lack of social skills? And is it worse with the younger guys because Gen Z's more online?
No, you're going to be... that's a good question. You're going to be surprised by this, but most of the guys who are virgins right now doesn't mean that they're terribly, looking or that they don't have any social skills. What happens right now is because dating's getting harder with time and social media and everything. What's happening right now, what we're seeing is you're seeing a lot of guys who are focused on their career in college, put their heads down. They go have a good career and they're maybe the mid-management or something like that. And they're like, hey, I've been focused on my career so long, I forgot I'm still a virgin. And then I'm like, well, what's going on?
How old are they by the time they like look up?
Reality check, 25, 26.
Okay.
Right? At that point, you're like, okay, I'm 20. What's the average life expectancy? 74?
Yeah.
So at 37, you're middle age, basically.
Yeah.
Right? 25, 26 is like, I have 10 years to have fun and find my wife.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of what we see with virgins most part now.
Okay, so it's just guys that are super career oriented.
Yeah.
Because I think the idea online when you hear about like incels is like these losers in their room, like a dark.
You have a lot of those
that just don't
too.
work, that don't do any. Is that what you see at all too, or
so
like what if you had to like you get 10 virgins that come to you, how would you divide it generally?
So very much so, 50% of those are very much. I put my head down. I've been working. I forgot I had to lose my virginity. Right.
Okay.
The other half are, you could say they're kind of like more on the loser end, but a lot of them do have their shit together. They just lack some social skills. They're scared, right? They have some trauma that they're insecure. They lack confidence, right? But it's actually pretty surprising because you'd think like virgins are those guys, but a lot of them are just normal guys who haven't put themselves out there. So you might not know this, but when you go out, you might be talking to a virgin. He doesn't seem like one, but he is, right? Because he's afraid to make the move. So it's surprising, but that's about the split that we see. Yeah.
And how long does it usually take to get a virgin laid?
3 weeks.
Okay.
3 weeks.
Is it that quick?
Yeah. 3 weeks. Have you, like, for example, we connect online and you're like, hey, I'm never, lost, like just touched a girl before. It takes about 3 weeks. Because you got to understand, they just don't understand women, right? Once they understand, like, okay, how they think and stuff like that, it's pretty easy. But if I see them in person, probably like 6 or 7 days. So
and are there any guys that just can't be helped?
Yeah.
And is it like a looks thing, mindset?
No.
There has to be some that you're like, you're just not good looking.
I'm like, yeah, you're done for. No, so.
Come on, be honest.
There's some guys, but it's not so much about the bad looks or anything. It's like, they're just lazy.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? This is what I tell every guy. It's like, if you work out, right? If you take care of what you eat, and then you're polished, you're well tailored clothes, you look good, you're going to be a 7 for most girls. You smell good, good haircut. That's all it takes. But a lot of guys are lazy and they can't even do that. And so, I mean, as girls, they see him like, oh, he doesn't even put effort into himself, right? What does that say about a relationship with him, right? So most guys are just lazy. So it's more of a lazy thing for guys, more so. I mean, sure, you'll get like, I mean, everything's a bell curve, right? So you're going to have some guys that are, you know, pretty hard to fix, but usually you could up yourself, you know, 1 or 2 points by working on yourself. So. And
what do you see in terms of like, what type of girl is it? Usually just like the super slutty girls, they lose their virginity. I'm just wondering, like, who do you tell them to go for? Do they start with the fat shit? Like,
yeah,
they got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, they got to start somewhere. So the thing is, right now the hookup culture is so prominent. Yeah. Right. That I think the standard of being labeled, you know, like a slut or whatever has gotten more lenient. Oh yeah. Because it's so prominent. But just in general, no, they're losing it to like average chicks, right? If he's 25, 26, she's probably around the same age, maybe a little younger. They meet at a bar and then they hook up. You know, that's kind of how it works. She's not a massive, you know, slut or whatever, but she does, you know, engage in the hookup culture. I do have clients who are like Christian, religious, stuff like that.
That's got to be tough to work with. No. I find that though, like, it's just, when I talk to them, they can't really get through like the hookup culture stuff. They don't have like resistance to it at all.
Right. What do you mean by resistance?
Like I find that a lot of them are kind of ridden with like guilt for like they see it as like manipulation in a way. Right. I don't know if that's maybe I could be. I don't coach men, so I could be. You know.
Yeah. So psychology and attraction, they're natural, right? So it's just persuasion to a degree, but really the guys that are tough to work with, it's not because of their religious background or anything like that. It's just if they're not coachable. Got it. Right? Think about it like kids. You can't coach like a kid at Little League. It's like, oh, fuck, I can't work with this kid, right? So if they just are not coachable, they don't listen, they don't apply, those guys are hard to work with, right? But from a religious standpoint, we approach them differently, right? On how they should engage in the dating scene. But there's some nuances to that, but overall they are workable. Probably some of my favorite people to work with, actually. Yeah.
So when it comes to like the guys that are like want to go from incel to like in a relationship, what's that process usually like?
Incel
like, to like get married with kids or whatever.
So this is what happens, right? Because I mean, how does a guy turn into an incel? Right? That's
overworking, right?
Yeah. So again, like on a bell curve, right? The average guy, if he doesn't seek help, he's either going to blame the world and himself and his flaws for not getting any girls. Like, oh, well, that guy is super tall, that guy's super chatty, and I'm super short, or the world hates me, and you just pity, right? Victim mentality. Or he goes the other way and he blames all women. He's like, oh, all women are whores, hypergamous, and you know what I mean? Whatever. He turns into an incel or whatever. Yeah. But so they either end up in those buckets that they don't fix themselves, right? So it's really hard to get them out of that. The way you get them out of that is first by getting rid of those beliefs. Saying, okay, well, you're wrong, right? Make him realize that. And then you count his small wins. He has to get out there. When they turn into incels, it's usually like a coping mechanism for them, as they say, oh, well, all women are, whatever, whores. And then you're like, well, are they? Go approach that one. You don't know. Oh, I don't want to. And then it's just a coping mechanism for them to avoid failure. So that's what happens, is you have to make them realize that. And we do that through a phase, right? Where we take them out and we make sure that we desensitize them to those approaches, making sure they realize, oh, women are actually cool, because you guys are, right? It's God's greatest invention. So it's like they have to realize that before they even think about hooking up with a girl or dating one. So it's hard, but
what are the other possible, like limiting beliefs that they have?
There's so many.
So you got
many.
Time? Go ahead.
Yeah, so many. So probably, I mean, physical insecurities are huge, right? And you have to come to terms with it, right? When you're short, okay? Guys who are short, guys who are bold, right? They're insecure about it, self-conscious. So anything physically, right, that is you can't fix, those insecurities are really tough to work with, right? So that's one of them. Other self-limiting beliefs are that they're not good enough, okay? And usually high-performing men have this problem because if you think about it, high-performing men, they work hard because they want to prove to the world that they're someone. And it kind of almost stems from a chip on their shoulder insecurity, right? And so when you analyze those guys, what you see is that they just don't feel like they're enough. It prompts them to work a lot and be really successful to feel like they're enough, like to some degree in their career and their business or whatever. But it doesn't translate with women, right? And
or they become like a target.
Or to exactly. And so what ends up happening with those guys is when they talk to women, they don't feel enough. And so they feel like they have to lead with the money or with the status. And those self-limiting beliefs are tougher because that feeling of not being enough is what got them that success with business. You know what I mean? And so for them in their mind is, oh, well, that's how I got here, right? And they don't realize with women, it's like, no, you're enough for her. You're more than enough, right? You don't have to lead with those things, right? And from there, you have other things that happen like approach anxiety, lack of confidence with women, stuff like that, just because you don't feel enough. But that one's really, really unique to the guys I work with. Other self-limiting beliefs is if they're raised in a shitty family and they're like, you're not shit, right? We have a lot of those.
Yeah.
And so they need a lot of reassurance, right? Hey, do you really think
and
I
that's
could pull
going to
that girl?
repel women.
Exactly, right? Because what happens when a guy needs reassurance? What do you think as a girl?
You.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, yeah.
Right? Insecurity, clingy.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, so nasty. And so those guys that we see, that's another big bucket that we see, right? But those guys have never had any reassurance in their life, right? Their parents never said, good job. Be proud of yourself.
Right.
You know, they're always saying, that's it.
And in the world, it's not like the world is overly nice to them either.
I mean, when you're a kid, the world is nice to you. But once you're an adult, like in your 20s or in your 30s, no one's giving you that reassurance, right? So they never had it to begin with, and now they're seeking it. It doesn't help. Now they're looking for that in women, right? In dating. So those are kind of like the self-limiting beliefs that we see that are really tough to work with for sure.